Manchester City humbled. Manchester City embarrassed tonight by bottom of the table Southampton. Nathan Jones's men were nothing short of sensational. Nathan Jones's men were nothing short of clinical. Southampton were perfect this evening. They nullified this City team who, as I've told you all year, are gettable, gettable, gettable. Now, you can argue they started a weaker team. They started a weaker team. So what are you talking about? They brought on the big boys, all of them. And they still only mustered a half chance from Alvarez early on, and a very, very good piece of goalkeeping stopped Haaland from scoring. But Southampton were the better team in the first half and the better team in the second half. And how big a shock this is, it's the first domestic quarterfinal that Pep Guardiola has lost. The first domestic quarterfinal that Pep Guardiola has lost. And I've said it many, many times on the terrace, and I'll say it again. Stop just assuming because it's what's expected it's going to happen. Now, I didn't personally predict Southampton to go through, but this notion of no way, not happening, there's no point tuning in. Stop that. You don't know football if you just think every game is a foregone conclusion. This is why football isn't just the greatest sport in the world. It is the greatest entertainment spectacle, the greatest art, the greatest sport, the greatest drama. Nothing in the world supersedes football, especially football in the UK. It is by far the greatest and absolutely sensational. No shots on target tonight for City as well. And you have to give massive credit to Southampton. Djenepo's goal was absolutely sublime. In fairness, Mara's goal was great as well. I mean, the way he took that first time on his right foot after turning Kyle Walker inside out was sublime. And Southampton started the game in such a positive, aggressive, and downright beautiful way. I am not surprised. And I am also going to call out Cancelo, because this guy was being lauded, just like some other fullbacks, as the best the Premier League has ever seen. No. You know, this current crop of fullbacks, they don't even get to chat. The ones that are lauded up as the stars, they don't get to chat to Gary Neville's and Ashley Cole's and Dennis Irwin's, Lee Dixon's. They don't get to chat to them. Laurent's. They ain't on the clock. Listen, Bakary Sagna was a better fullback than some of these guys. Look, they might not have had the passing ability or crossing ability, but that's because half these fullbacks nowadays are fouled wingers that are stuck at the back. They are bang average defensively. And Cancelo, listen, I'm not saying he's a bum, but that man had a good 18 months, and people were talking about the greatest the Premier League has ever seen not having it. And in other news, Nottingham Forest knock out Wolves on penalties. So it's Forest, Man United, Newcastle, and Southampton in the semi-finals. Man United now become the default favourites, I'm sure. Newcastle will be licking their lips at this. Maybe the first chance of a trophy in, 60-odd years for them. And all remaining four clubs are happy that Man City have gone out tonight, because it opens up this competition hugely. And as a United fan, I'm not going to lie to you. If Ten Hag could break the 6-year drought, 5-year drought, going on to 6-year drought, and kind of get that monkey off his back early about winning trophies, that would be a godsend. Newcastle will feel the same. If this new ownership could bring them in a trophy now, it ends the pressure. The kind of 50, I think it must be nearly 60 years since they've won a major trophy. So if they could end that now, it kind of relinquishes pressure further along down the lines. And what are the ramifications of this for City? Because City have got a lot of football coming up soon. A lot of football on the horizon. United on Saturday. 2 games in close proximity to Tottenham. I think they play Arsenal in this run as well. And I'm telling you that this City team ain't looking healthy. This City team is not looking healthy. They play Man United, then Tottenham, then Wolves, then Arsenal in the FA Cup, then Tottenham, then Villa, then Arsenal again. legitimately, if they don't, if this City team does not buck their ideas up, no word of a lie, I'm not being hyperbolic. They're ending this season with niente, nil point trophies, zero, bottom of the barrel. They got to fix up. They are so gettable. And you may say, well, they've only lost three games or 4 games in all comps this year. I think they've drawn 5, something like that. But even in the games they win, if it wasn't for that goal scoring prowess of Haaland, they'd be in a much worse situation. There's something off about this team. And Jack Grealish as well. We just chat about this £100 million signing. Another lackluster, lethargic, uneventful, impotent, flaccid performance, soppy performance. It was a wet fart. He was a wet fart tonight, and the City fans must be slowly losing their temper at this guy. He just cannot perform in the Pep Guardiola system. It's as simple and it's as straightforward as that. There are no second team excuses. City don't have that luxury. City's second team is a first team. Simple as that. And they brought them on at half time and still didn't get a shot at target. Not having it. But Jack Grealish, you know, from my standpoint, I said it, he's the biggest flop in English football history. He is the biggest flop. £100 million. He's had a handful of good games. Yes, he has a Premier League title to his name, but Jack Grealish for Man City has been about as impactful towards them winning trophies as Luke Chadwick was for Manchester United. Jack Grealish is Man City's Luke Chadwick. The difference being Luke Chadwick was a free player from the academy, not a £100 million British record signing. Jack Grealish is Luke Chadwick. That's it. That's it. Arsenal had a player on their bench. I don't know if he won a trophy with them. But you remember Henry Lansbury? Like you have those fringe players who may have a major trophy to their name because they were on the bench a few times or they were within the squad. That's all he is. He's a squad player for City. He's so average in their system. Massive flop. City have got to try and get some of their money back and go elsewhere, because if they had a star out there on that left-hand side tonight, if they had a Rashford, if they had a Martinelli, if they had somebody of that ilk, they're winning the game. But they had no one who could turn the game on a sixpence for them, especially in the first half when they needed it. Legitimately, Jack Grealish is Man City's Luke Chadwick. He'll have some titles to his name. He'll have some winning medals to his name, but they mean nothing when you're when you have almost no impact. When your career there has been so uneventful. And I get City fans are going to defend him. City fans are going to defend him, but they're only going to defend him while they're winning. Since they finish a season or two without winning the league, they're going to come for that guy's neck. Mark my words, it's coming. But Jack Grealish is Luke Chadwick 2.0. At least City tried 0 shots on target. Yeah, it was an abysmal performance. It was an abysmal performance, and they should be utterly ashamed of it. City away from home look predictable and look suspect defensively. United, no matter who they get, have to win the trophy. Now I'm even more confident for Saturday. Listen, Man United will be seen as the favourites, and I expect Man United to go on and try and win this. I'm not writing Newcastle off. They've been the third best team in the Premier League this year. They themselves have taken points off City, stopped Arsenal from scoring, took a point at the Emirates. They're a difficult team. I'd rather get Newcastle in the semi-final, though, than in the final. I actually feel more confident over 2 legs playing them than a one-off game. But equally, Man United have to be seen as a favourite. Valuation of squad, the manager, what he's won in his career, the experience. Even players in our squad have won this trophy. They've been to multiple semi-finals, so they will be considered the favourites. And there'll be a big expectation on Man United now. So this becomes a very, very important acid test for Manchester United, because there's now pressure. Where maybe a round or two ago, when a lot of the big boys were still in it, there was that case of City are the favourites and Arsenal were in there and whatever else. But I did say this, by the way, when Man United went through that same night, when I think when Tottenham went out, when Arsenal went out, City went out. Sorry, City knocked out Chelsea. Sat there and said, "I'm happy to be in it." And I know you always get from the losers who go out, their fan base is cap. And the reason we know it's cap is because every fan base does this every year, where they'll say, "Well, I'm glad we're out. We can focus on the league." My view was, well, I want to be in it because now that a lot of the big boys have gone, all it takes is one or two other shocks, and suddenly you've got a relatively easy run at a trophy. Now, history is not going to care that Man United might have Wolves in the semi-final and Southampton in the final. I don't care. No, Man City's famous FA Cup win over Watford doesn't take the trophy away from them because they didn't beat another one of the best teams in the country. That isn't how cup football works. Sometimes you go on crazy hard runs like Man United did in 1999. Sometimes you go on really easy runs like United did in the FA Cup in 2016. The hardest team we played was Everton in the semis. But that didn't stop me celebrating the win. And that's why you should always want to remain in these tournaments, because you never know when they're going to open up and you never know when you're going to be presented with a really good opportunity. United in a title race, Terry. Sound the battle drums for Vieira and Keane. Rekindle the rivalry. Arsenal and United rise together is no surprise. Look, we're not going to go that far on Man United just yet. I think that there's a long way for Man United to go before they are looked at as potential title contenders. Love to Southampton from Liverpool, by the way. Yeah, listen, I have to say again, I have to echo that Southampton weren't lucky tonight. This was no smash and grab. They outplayed, outclassed, embarrassed, and humbled Manchester City. The pressing was sensational. They knew when to sit back. Do you know what's really impressive? And this should be a blueprint for clubs. Have you ever seen your club start well against a big team, press well, score a goal, maybe even two, and then sit back and be negative and invite them onto you? Nathan Jones's men tonight did the opposite. They carried on attacking at the right times. They absorbed correctly as well. They got the balance so spot on. City did not know what to do, and they were rattled. Sad to see United fans care about the Carabao Cup. My friend, not at all. Do you know why I care about the Carabao Cup? Because I care about my club being seen as the biggest club in England. The biggest club in England has the most amount of trophies. And of course, you want the majority of them to be leagues, which we have, and Champions League with the second best at that. But at the same time, you also want the Carabao Cups. You also want the FA Cups, because if over a 5-6 year period, you've won multiple domestic trophies plus the big boys, you then start looking at conversations of one of the greatest teams of all time. You have to have these trophies. To not care about it is to not care about being the greatest club. And if you're part of the top six, or you want to be part of the top six, if you don't care about being the biggest and the best and winning the most, you're watching the wrong sport. All that matters in football at the end of the day for the big boys is the trophies. That is it. And if you're thinking, oh, I only care about leagues and only care about leagues and I only care about Champions Leagues, you're wrong. You're just wrong. And I need you to send me your mobile phone number so I can phone your dad. So I need to let him know that he's let you down, son. He has let you down. I remember the golden age when we didn't care about it. See, we did not care about it. What happened is that Manchester United took it for granted, because if you actually go back to the 90s and early noughties, squads weren't deep enough to compete on all four fronts. It was very hard. So we rotated and we gave fringe players a chance, and they got knocked out. But in the early Fergie years, we really tried to win this, and we did. And then we went through this period in the middle where we just focused on Champions League, Premier League, and FA Cup. But then as squads started to get bigger, in the mid-noughties, Fergie focused on it. It is a fallacy and a lie that Man United never cared about it. All that happens is it's a trophy that when you go out of, fans pretend they don't care about it, but it's cap. Absolute cap. Let's have a look here. Ten Hag's first trophy loading is what Christian says. Let's not get carried away here and disrespect Newcastle and the other teams. Do we need to start questioning City's depth? No, I think we need to question City's overall hunger and desire. They look a shadow of themselves. They look a shadow of themselves, and we're talking about the elite spectrum. They just don't look at it. They really don't. Craig here says 0 attempts on target. Now they are coming up against two world-class winning, World Cup winning centre backs and Casemiro in midfield. We have to win this trophy now. Craig, listen, United will be seen as the favourites, and they surely have to. And we'll start building up to that Manchester derby from tomorrow, and I'm very excited about that. Joshua here says City away from home look predictable and look suspect defensively. I hear you on that completely, Josh Jack, and I think a lot of people would agree with you in relation to that. I cried as a boy in the Coca-Cola Cup final. A Tony Daly winner. Don't tell me I don't care. Yeah, I remember being gutted when I remember being gutted. I've been to two. No, I didn't go to. I went to one and missed out on the other. I went to the one where we got beat by Liverpool, and I want to say that was like '03, maybe, but might have been '04, but '03, I think it might have been. And I remember getting beat by Aston Villa when it was called the Coca-Cola Cup, and that was gutting. Like, you actually go back and look at how many finals United were in under Fergie. They did take it seriously, but we did what we do now. You rotate in the earlier rounds, and you chance your arm. The difference was squads weren't as thick in that kind of no mid 90s to mid noughties, that little 10-year period. Squads weren't as deep as they are now. Money has changed that. We are looking to win a game or draw against City. Manchester United should always be looking to win, there's no doubt. Could Diaz be a loss for City lately? Their centre backs look questionable. The thing is with all this, like, is it because of one player being missing? City have looked gettable all year, irrespective of who's played and who's been dropped. So for me, I would say no. Terry always playing it safe with United. No, that's called being balanced and fair. A waterfall of injuries hit Real Madrid. What's going on? I don't know. I have no idea what you're talking about. Tom Smith says Fulham 2, Chelsea nil tomorrow. That would certainly be an interest. If that was to happen, that would honestly be crazy. That'd be crazy. There we go. 4-1 City. Book it tomorrow for Saturday. Listen, it could be. City do have the capabilities of beating Man United that badly. Even now, like 110%, they've got the ability to do it. They've got the players to do it. So yeah, would I be surprised? No, I wouldn't. Welsh MUFC fan says, "Big up Terry for calling this City team out all season." I had to. Like, this is the thing with it. Like, people kind of come at me and they think I've got an agenda and I'm making things up. No, I don't get every prediction right. Nobody does, especially short-term predictions. But my long-term predictions are invariably correct. I predicted that sacking Ollie wouldn't improve us unless we made massive structural changes. And if you research the structural changes at Man United, they are gargantuan in terms of what we've done. And it's all being discussed by the manager. The culture was far more important than the system because culture eats strategy for breakfast if it isn't right. I spoke in the summer about you could see towards the end of last season, what Arsenal were developing for this year. I didn't think they'd be title contenders this campaign. I thought it would be something they would develop into. I said at the start of the year, it was the end of last season, that there was something quite a little off with this City team, which is quite normal when you've won so many trophies. That desire is really hard to keep going. Why do I know that? Because when you listen to the conversations about people like Fergie, what shocks so many of his peers is how we kept his team motivated year in, year out after winning so much. It's rocking horse shit. It's so rare. It's not normal. Most of us predicted the downturn of Liverpool, even though they're doing brilliant last year. There was this element of all this, but that was one I got wrong. So most of the things I predict, medium to long term, I get right. And I've just felt this with City. You can tell by watching them. I've watched every single Man City game 4 years for about 4 to 5 years running now. And I can see when they're not playing at their best. Doesn't mean I get everything right, but I felt with this one I did 110%. United 4, City nil. Terry, I'm calling it now. Yeah, I think that's a bit too much. Chelsea prediction for tomorrow, I'm going to go 2-2. Overall, I think Todd Bowley and that will get this Chelsea team playing very, very good football over the course of the next 2 seasons or so. And I think Chelsea will be a threat with what they're doing. There's no doubt about that in my mind. Terry, in 12 months, when United look exactly like they have for a decade, culture needs to change. Or it will only fall apart if the culture doesn't remain fixed. So you can fix something short term by allowing the managers to discipline players, allowing him to sell who he wants, allowing him to buy who he wants, allowing him to set the standards that the players must adhere to. And anybody that falls outside of that gets a warning, a second warning, and then gets moved on. But if the Glazers or new owners pull that rug from under his feet, and they allow player power to ensue, players to not work hard. They tell the manager, no, you're not selling Rashford, even though he hasn't turned up for training 5 times this month. That's hypothetical. Then yes, the culture would need to change because that would be the problem. I'm beyond right on this. And if you ever fancy coming on and giving me a debate, if you can prove me wrong, I will give you £10,000 in cash and pay your mortgage for a year. Why did City rest players? Because of United or because they have to chase Arsenal? I think if they were 5 points clear like Arsenal, they would have put up a strong team. I agree that City are definitely rattled right now. City are definitely rattled by the quality of Arsenal and the pressure they're under. And they know they're under pressure because they know they're not playing well enough. City know they're not at the level right now. 110%. They know that they are not at the level. They know. Jeremy here says, wow, rival fans coming out to try and bring us down. Loving it. Love to see Chelsea drop more points tomorrow. United get the win and Arsenal beat Spurs. That would be a good weekend. Terry, when are you going to bring back the preview shows for the top 5? Soon. It's just been really hard this season because of the Constantine season. It became really hard to do the preview shows with all the other shows we did. There just wasn't the space in the football calendar to really do them. So, yeah, it was one of the difficult things. I think the draw's coming up very, very soon, people. So stay with us. We'll give you a live reaction to that draw coming out as well. But I want to get your thoughts and feelings on City. Why are they so gettable this year? Why have they been so easy to get at? And who do you now think is winning the Carabao Cup? Who do you make as your favourites? And is there going to, on the City conversation, could this impact the remainder of their season? Because I personally think, I'm not telling you what, I can't tell you what I think is going to happen in the Man United game. I've got a preview coming out. But I think Spurs are going to take points off them. And I think Arsenal are going to not, I think Arsenal are going to beat them at the Emirates in just over a month's time. I think in this time in a month, City won't be out of the title race, but I believe they could almost be 10 points out of it. Almost 10. I think this period is going to hurt them. Let's have a look at what you think. Let's have a little look here now. Newcastle is who official one thinks is going to win. Here we have a few people saying that. A lot of people saying Newcastle. Ratu here says Man United. A lot of Newcastle's in the comments. The GOAT says Man United, but we will see. So on the draw, number one, the club number one is Man United, 2 Newcastle. I actually would prefer Newcastle in the semi-final, 2 legs. I something about it. I'd rather them over 2 legs than in a final because they're really good this year, and I wouldn't write them off at all. I'm not going to write them off. I haven't written them off. But here we go. I'll be bringing the reaction to this to you live now, my people. First name coming out of the hat is gonna be number 4. So the first name out is Southampton. Now, look, if we get Southampton, we take them. But I would prefer Newcastle in the semi-finals. And it is number 2. So that's Newcastle. So Man United play Nottingham Forest in the semi-finals, and it is geared up to be a Manchester United-Newcastle final if we go with the favourites progressing. If the favourites progress, it will be Newcastle United versus Manchester United in the final. However, you don't write off Nottingham Forest and you don't write off Southampton. All I would say is this. Over 2 legs, I can't see, like if Southampton and City play next week and City were 2-0 down on aggregate, I think City could easily stick 4 or 5 past them at the Etihad and go through. So I am going to predict it now. I believe it will be a Man United versus Newcastle final. Crazy. And that, by the way, that's 2 more games now added to the January calendar for Manchester United and Newcastle. United got to go and buy some players now. They got to go and buy some players. Yes, exciting times. I mean, Southampton could beat Newcastle, but I don't think they will over 2 legs. I think Newcastle just that little bit better. Over 2 legs, they'll beat them. And by the end of Jan, Newcastle would have probably signed some players. And I get a little feeling with the opportunity of winning this trophy, you could see them go knocking on that door at Leicester, Maddison, Tielemans, somebody like that. give them a bit of extra creativity as well. Terry, what's your top 6 predictions and why? Arsenal to win the league, City second, United third, Liverpool fourth, Newcastle fifth. 6th place Tottenham. That's what I'd go with right now. Why? Based on form, based on quality of the squads, experience. But however, if Newcastle end up signing 2 or 3 players, if United sign some different players, I may change my opinion. But right now, that's just based on what we know, as opposed to where we feel we are at the end of the month, because of course the window could be hugely, hugely important. Joshua here says City lack substance. They look weak underneath and have been playing with a persona of old. Once you unmask the devil, they suddenly become less scary. City are the devil. All talk, no bite this year. I think it's an interesting take on point, and very, very, very substantial. Mama Flossie here, of course, is a Newcastle fan. Says if Newcastle got to the final, we would be happy. Of course you would. And I'm actually going to go and check this now. When did Newcastle last win a trophy? What year was it? Some of you watching must know off the top of your head. Legitimately have to know what year it was. It was a long time ago, though. So the last time you won the league was in 1927, so nearly 100 years ago, and you won an FA Cup in 1955. So my dad wasn't even born. And he won the League Cup. Doing the League Cup. Now, some of you are saying 1969. It ain't 69. That was 1955. They, yeah, like the second division doesn't count. That's not a trophy in that same way. So the league, FA Cup or League Cup. Yeah, 1955. So it's 66. Sorry. Yeah, it's 67 years. The Fairs Cup. That's not a trophy. The Intercity Fairs Cup. Yeah, that ain't a trophy. I'm sorry. You haven't won a proper, a major trophy since 1955. It's nearly 68 years. And it is 68 years. Wow. And that's why, like, if Newcastle win this, legitimately, it's gargantuan. 68 years. No Intertoto Cup. I don't want none of these. Major trophy. Proper trophy. It's been 68 years. Oh, my word. Like, there were buildings in England that still have bomb damage on it from World War II. I think we were still rationing food. Wow. That is crazy. That is crazy. 68 years. I was at 50 in my head, but it must have been like 50 talk years ago, like in the 90s. It's true. My boots. Newcastle, do you know what? Like, if I take my Man United hat off, Newcastle, if we don't win it, I'd kind of be happy to see Newcastle do it, because I bet you Nottingham Forest have definitely won stuff less than that. We know that because they won Champions Leagues in the 80s. So we know they've won things more recently. What about Southampton? When did Southampton last win a major trophy? And I'm talking big European Cup or big domestic trophy, nothing small and weird. They've never won the league. See, look, they won the FA Cup in 1976. So even them, right? That's still a long time. And they won the League Cup. Never. But that's still 21 years difference. Do you know what I'm saying? Yeah, if Man United don't win it, I want Newcastle to a degree. 68 years. Wow. My gosh. My gosh. And they're a big club, Newcastle. To go 68 years without winning a trophy. The size of the club, the stature of the club, the fame of the club. Wow. Wow. But by the way, it also goes to show how good you can play against Man City today if you work hard. You know, well, I'm not surprised Chelsea lost because they didn't have all their players squad. How many of the How many of the Southampton players tonight get into the Chelsea team? And Ward-Prowse probably good at the minute, but how many legit get into there? 2 or 3? Thanks for the comments about my nice new hair. I do try. It's getting there. It's thickening out now. I mean, I've got no product in it. It's thickening out. It's getting there. Hairline still looking all right. Yeah, I'm happy. Happy days. I'm not pulling it too hard. Might fall off. Terry, Newcastle won. The Intertoto Cup does not count as a major trophy. I'm sorry to say it. Yeah, I'm sorry to say it. I am sorry to say it. Newcastle were never bigger than Sunderland. At least Sunderland's most recent trophy was like in the 1980s. Mm, it's crazy. It's crazy how long it's been. I knew it was a long time. I never really researched it and never deeped it before. It's older, longer than my dad's been alive. That's mad. My dad's old as shit. Do you know what I mean? Terry, you say Arsenal to win the league this season due to City being unable to get being gettable like today. Yeah, part of the reason is that. And I've been saying it all year. They just look gettable. And you remember a lot of people go, oh, second half of the season, City push on. They didn't last year. They won the league, but they had a massive gap and Liverpool nearly caught them up. If they have a second, if City have a second half of the season like last year, I think that means they drop about 12 points. So if they drop 12 points between now and the end of the season, that means Arsenal have got to drop 18 for them to win the league. Are Arsenal dropping 18 points? I don't think so. I don't think so. I don't think so. And have City become better than last year? They haven't. They legitimately haven't. They haven't. Take nothing away from the Saints, but I suspect City threw that game away. No, I don't think they did, man. I don't think they did. Why do you think that? I'd love to just get your take on it and understand what you mean by they threw the game away. I'm not going to try and debunk what you've said because, frankly, I don't understand even what you mean. I'd love you to explain what you mean by that, brother. I'd love you to. I'd love you to explain that if you could. City will win the Premier League by 10 points. Maybe. Maybe. But they're going to have to improve significantly from how they're playing now. Josh here says, well, Ward-Prowse needs out of the Saints. The guy's too good. I'd take him at Arsenal to rotate with Xhaka. Yeah, there's some talent in there. There's some talent in that player. I look at him like this. Who would I rather bring onto the pitch for Man United? McTominay or Ward-Prowse? I'd take Ward-Prowse. I'd take Ward-Prowse right now over Grealish, to be honest with you. I know they play different positions, but still. I tell you who also wasn't very good for City tonight. I know he's young. Got to give him a little bit more time. But I thought that Kyle Palmer looks average, bruv. He looked average. I thought Grealish, you already know, I thought looked poor. Gomez at left back. Jeez. Yeah, he ain't at the level. And when you put it on some of these fringe City players, they haven't got that thick skin, bruv. They're running away like babies. Why bring Haaland on if you're throwing the game? Yeah, that's my point. That's why I don't understand that take someone just said about throwing the game. It doesn't stock up. In my opinion, anyway. It doesn't. But that's just my view. Lavia is a must for Chelsea, Terry. I saw the light today. Yeah, he looked really good in the middle. He looked really good. I thought that Lianco, the right back, had a very good game. Ward-Prowse in that kind of 10 role looked good. Decent performance. And Mara up front, listen, I think it's his first goal for the club. I don't know how many games he's played for them yet. He looks, like a tasty little addition as well. So, yeah, decent performance from him. No doubt about it. No doubt about it. Yeah, he does. He looks like a baller. It looks like he could be good. He does. He looks like he could be good. Whiskey or rum? Diet Pepsi. That's all it is in there, my friend. A bit of Diet Pepsi. This is such a similar season so far to what, Baz? I need you to tell me to what. People were saying the same as the Foxes. Oh, say I get Yeah, listen. Yeah, exactly. I think everyone's just desperate for Arsenal to not win it, and I understand why. But I'm not allowing my predictions to be dictated by my heart. It's based off what I can see so far. The new era is surely coming. It would be between United and Man United for the years to come. Look, I think Arsenal fans are starting to believe that because the amount of I've seen the gal and so many Arsenal fans coming for Man United online the last few days for no real reason other than fear. That's it. That's what it comes down to. I think a lot of Gooners know that might be happening, but I don't think City are going to go anywhere. I think City will be part of it as well. Many Man City fans, even on your channel and others, say City can go on a 12 to 15 game winning run, but the way they are playing, it might not happen. It might not. Playing like this ain't going to happen. Playing like this ain't going to happen, and it's a concertinaed season. Like, yes, they're out of this tournament now, so they get that midweek, the couple of midweeks off. But the Champions League's around the corner, and Pep's got to win that thing. This City team has to win the Champions League to be considered a great side. You cannot be a great side without winning the Champions League. No team that is considered one of the elite teams ever has failed to win the Champions League. Every great team that's recognized worldwide as a great team, in my opinion, has won a Champions League. From the 30s right through to that Champions League needs to be added. And they're going to scrap up. They're going to be fighting hard for that. Terry, don't forget the drugs, otherwise you lose the hair. I don't take anything other than I take some butane and I take zinc and I take vitamin D3. I don't take any chemical drugs. I don't rub anything into my hair. Just a transplant. That's it. Just a transplant and health supplements that are good for hair and nail growth. That's all I take, and that's all I have to. And like literally, like the back takes the longest to fill out, and that's pretty much done. And that's pretty thick head of hair, considering how bald I was. So yeah, it's working for me. It's working for me. City's academy needs 10 more years before the talent has merit, but in time their academy will function well. Listen, most academies only bring through in a decade 1 or 2 actual star players for your team at the level of a Man City. Terry, what do you rate Arteta's ceiling is at Arsenal? It's a brilliant question. If you can win the Premier League, you can win the Champions League. If you can win the Premier League and win the Champions League, you can win multiple trophies. If he wins multiple major trophies at Arsenal, he has the ability to become an Arsenal legend. That's it. It's as simple as that. There's a difference between winning a major trophy and then winning multiple major trophies, but he has the ability to do it because if you can win one, you can win another. It's whether or not you've got the staying power for it. And then to win lots of them, to suddenly start going into legend categories, you've got to be able to maintain this and maintain your level as a manager decade in, decade out. That's hard because times change. In 10 years' time, be a new generation of players who have a different outlook of the world. Can you adapt? That was Fergie's biggest asset, that from the becoming a manager in the 70s, he was still able to manage young people in 2013. That is an underappreciated thing. But yeah, I think he's got a very, very high ceiling indeed, if that makes sense. Any questions you've got, though, please get them in. Please get them into me now. We'll obviously dedicate time to the member chats and the super chats that come in. Thank you. Some of you are very strange. Terry should change the system. So when you say system, I'd love you to expand on that. Do you mean formation or style of play? Because Pepe's never changing his style of play hugely. There could be subtleties. And I don't think it's the crazy part is everyone thinks it's just Haaland that's giving them the issue. I don't think it is because you saw them struggle in the first half today with a far more complete forward in Alvarez. And when I say complete, somebody with, I would say, better footballing ability, but not as good a finisher. So more rounded would probably be a better descriptive than complete. And they still struggled. I think it's more about the Grealishes of this world not quite being at it, the Gundogan's being a year or so older, and like Cancelo going backwards. And it's almost like 3 or 4 of their players that made them so formidable in years gone by have been slightly off the boil this year. KDB's still been pretty good. Haaland's been amazing. But who else in the City team this year could you look at and go, he's been electric? Rodri. I think Ake's played well, but they don't have enough players in form. And is that because they're past their best, some of them? Or is it just because after 2 years of winning the Premier League back to back and other multiple trophies, there's just a slight lack of desire and hunger for it? This can happen. I think we need to go counter-attacking against City. Yeah, I don't think Man United are going to try and dominate the ball. I think if Man United try and dominate the ball against them, they'll lose, personally. Terry, the reason I think City lost that game on purpose is because they know with all the fixtures coming fast, they have to prioritize the most important ones: Champions League, Premier League, FA Cup. Yeah, I don't see then why at half time you bring on. I'm just checking it. Half time he brought on Ake, De Bruyne, and Akanji, and then 10 minutes later he brought on Haaland. Like he literally brought on the majority of his better players. He could have thrown on Mahrez and Silva, but he knew the game was lost. So there was an element of that, but he did bring on his biggest hitters. He had hundreds of millions of pounds on that pitch tonight. If he didn't have his big boys on the bench, I think he would have a massive point, personally. Leng and Sweet says, I can't wait for Diaz to be back. Our leaders can shout back line. Is City finished? No, that would be a stupid thing to say. City are not finished. I don't think City are going to be finished for many, many years to come, as in just never think about them again. They may have seasons when Pep goes where they're not in title contention because they're not going to get a manager as good. That's in my opinion, fact. But yeah, he's they're not dead and they're definitely not finished. I think that saying that is crazy. Even to suggest it's a little bit mad. They're definitely not finished, in my opinion. Listen, people and everyone that has tuned in, I want to say a massive thank you to all of you. We're back tomorrow with more content as ever. What I would like from you is for you to hit the like button. I'd like you to hit the share button. I'd like you to make sure you are subscribing to the Terrace. We are closing in on that amazing number of 300,000 people that subscribe to us, which is absolutely brilliant. With so much football on the way, we're back in the studio this weekend as well. I am feeling back to full fitness, which is great. Feeling very, very good indeed. So it's no more even touching of the chest, which has been great. So I've got over that situation. I'm back in the studio from Sunday as well, which I'm very, very excited about. Until next time, people, take care of yourselves. Goodbye. God bless, and we'll see you all again very, very soon. Thank you.